Saturday, September 3rd, we've got a fight coming up between Andy Ruiz and Luis Ortiz. Now, this is a good one. I think this is a good fight for both men. On the one hand, we've got guys who have been Andy Ruiz, who held the belt, Luis Ortiz, who's been a title contender. So both men have been at the top or very near the top of the division for a little while now, right? Looking at a couple years. Both of them have some very good skill sets. I think it's going to be a good test of both men. I think it's going to be able to tell us exactly where they're at. That being said, where are they at exactly, right? Where are we looking at with these guys? On the one hand, you've got Ortiz. He admits to being like 45, 46 years old, something along those lines. It's widely believed that he's even older than that, right? We understand how things go coming out of the Cuban amateur system. They aren't always necessarily 100% honest with people's birth certificates when they're moving these guys through these amateur ranks, okay? I mean, it is what it is. Not that big of a deal. But either way, even under the best of circumstances, we're looking at a guy who's what? Mid to upper 40s? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Father Time's undefeated. And we see him starting to slip a little bit already. Okay? Ortiz has had top-notch boxing skills for as long as we can remember. You look at the stuff he's able to do, particularly as a heavyweight. You just don't see it all the time. He's slick. He's crafty. The way he's able to work behind that jab. The way he understands perfect timing on how to close the distance. Takes these little half steps back and lands these ferocious counter shots with that left hand. I mean, look at the way he put down Charles Martin in that last fight. But then let's look at it the other way. Look at the way Charles Martin put him down in that last fight. I mean, the way he put him down with basically just like a stiff jab in the fourth round. I mean, look, that's typically not the Ortiz we're used to seeing. But he got hit with two ferocious bombs by Deontay Wilder and dropped out of there. He's getting up there in age. I mean, things just have a way of adding up. Who knows how many amateur fights that he actually had, but the dude's taking a lot of shots, and now he's getting up there in age, so things start to have, the wear and tear starts to add up. You start to see these things show in the ring. Now, he's always going to have some very good skills, but he's just not the fighter who is still at his prime. Now, standing across from him, when you're looking at Andy Ruiz, now he's a guy who saw some success in the amateur system. Didn't reach the Olympics or anything like that. It got put out in the Olympic qualifiers, but he was competing amongst the top amateurs that the U.S. had to offer. Then he turns pro, racks off a bunch of fights against, no-namers for the most part, or guys who are significantly past their prime. And then all of a sudden, he bursts onto the world stage with that first fight against Anthony Joshua. And didn't even get it like a normal buildup. Gets in on late notice, right? The original opponent, Big Baby Miller, fails the drug test. In steps Andy Ruiz. Incredible underdog. Like 25-1 that Anthony Joshua was going to go in there and just knock him out inside of like 4 rounds or 5 rounds or whatever it was. Didn't turn out at all, right? Whoever had the script to the movie forgot to give it to Andy Ruiz. He didn't know what his role was supposed to be, so he just came out there and won the fight. And he looked good doing it, man. He was prepared, right? And what we saw from him that day, we saw a guy who's probably underrated athletically. He's got some good footwork. I mean, it's quick for the heavyweight division, right? So that's who he's going to be in there against. It's quick for a guy that size. He moves around. He's got a little bit of nimbleness to him, a little bit of agility. Knows how to step back. Knows how to get under shots well, right? Some decent upper body movement. Knows how to move forward and close the distance so that he can get inside the pocket, utilizing the footwork and the upper body movement. Works well behind the jab. I mean, he's undersized all day for the heavyweight division. And yet we consistently see him going in there and be able to see success against bigger guys. It's all the skill. It's all the ring IQ. It's all about just understanding the little shifts and the movements and everything. He has that. Very fast hands for a heavyweight. Punches well in combination. Knows how to stalk and walk a guy down. Like he gets it. He understands how to fight. Okay, and we saw all that in the first fight with Joshua. Now, I'll be the first to admit I'm pretty sure that Joshua was underprepared for that fight. Didn't take as soon as the Miller tested positive, there was probably like a huge adrenaline dump. He was kind of let down. I know there was a lot of trash talk building up to that fight, and he really wanted to get his hands on Big Baby Miller in the ring. So then all of a sudden you get this guy who steps in on short notice. You're a 25-1 favorite. Nobody's heard of him. It's easy to become incredibly overconfident, at the same time underwhelmed with the event, looking forward to what's next. You're unfocused, and you get a guy out there who he realizes that this is his opportunity. Before that fight, nobody heard of Andy Ruiz. Now, Andy Ruiz has been in the conversation amongst the top heavyweights for the last couple years, right, since that fight happened. Think about that transition. Think about that shift. One day. Well, one night, really, but whatever. One night. And we saw all that. Andy Ruiz realized that was his moment. He took advantage of it. Now, Anthony Joshua comes out. He's much more prepared in the rematch. It's a flip, right? He's much prepared in the rematch. Andy Ruiz is everyone's talking about how he's doing nothing but partying, not taking training seriously, and he gets blown out in the rematch, right? Dominated. Basically, Anthony Joshua was able to stay on the outside, work the jab, land some good straight long shots, and that was it. That shows you how thin the margins are when you're talking about guys who are at the very top. I mean, think about how long both of these men have boxed for, but you come in unprepared just for this event. You don't show up for your training camp. You come in out of shape. And then it's the difference between a knockout victory and getting dominated from the outside with a jab all night. So he ends up switching trainers. We see him when Eddie Reynoso comes out in his last fight against Chris Arreola. And looks good for the most part, right? We see what we typically see from Ruiz, right? We see the fast hands. We see the combination punching. We see him walking him down right from the opening bell. So when Ruiz is at his best, he can do some good work, and he can do it against some very good guys. Now, he's going to have his hands full when we're talking about Ortiz here, right? Because you're not necessarily going to be able to walk Ortiz down. He doesn't mind fighting in close. He's very shifty and tricky on the inside himself. Doesn't mind you coming forward and applying pressure. As a matter of fact, he prefers it because it's going to allow him to set up his traps and set up his counter shots. But this also isn't Ortiz at his best. We got Ruiz at like 32, 33 years old. We got Ortiz significantly older, 15, 16 years older, whatever the case may be, something along those lines. I think it's going to add up. I think when you look in the first round, these guys are going to be performing at a level that's much closer, or second round, these guys are going to be performing at a level that's much closer to each other than once the fight goes on, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. I think it's going to start to wear on Ortiz. I think that age is going to show. Look, Andy Ruiz goes to the body well. He's got crisp shots. He knows how to counter himself. He loves firing back hard. Luis Ortiz isn't even he's not the biggest puncher. He's not the biggest guy. So I think Ruiz is going to be able to see some success when he comes with his counters. I think he's going to be able to see success because he's got the faster hands. I think he's got some good punch durability. So when Ortiz is able to land his shots, and he will because he's crisp himself, when Ortiz is able to land his shots, Ruiz will be able to take them and be able to come back with some of his own. And I think neither one of these guys really likes to move backwards. We're going to see both of them, start to clash. I think Ortiz is going to start to give ground first. Like I said, he's comfortable counterpunching, so he'll start to back up a little bit. That's going to give Ruiz momentum. And I think slowly but surely you see it build over the fight. I think Andy Ruiz comes out with the victory. I just think Ortiz's time is past. If we were talking about both men in their absolute prime, I may come out with a different conclusion here. I was highly impressed with what Ortiz has been able to do when we've seen him in the heavyweight division with just, like I said, the little shifts, the little angles, the little slippery things that he does, like the way he understands how to use his footwork and then come inside and dip to work behind a double and a triple jab. And, he's just very intelligent and very skilled. But I think his best days are behind him. I think if Andy Ruiz comes in focused, if he comes in with a good, solid game plan, which, Eddie Reynoso's gotten a bad rap in the last, 6 months or a year. Canelo lost and, some advice that he was giving guys in fights. But I think he'll have him prepared. I think he'll have him ready. And I think Andy Ruiz is going to be able to come out with this victory. So let me know what you guys think. Are you as excited about this one as I am? If whoever comes out with the victory, what do you think is going to be next for him? I mean, we're talking about Tyson Fury versus Usyk, so it's not like we're looking at one of these guys to fight the winner of that or all of a sudden step in and be able to snatch one of those fights up. That's not really where this discussion is going. Yet at the same time, these guys are talked about amongst the best in the world. So what do you think will be next for the winner? What do you think will be next for the loser? I mean, nobody's ever mentioned Ortiz talking about retirement, but is that what we're going to be looking at if he comes out here with another loss? Let me know what you guys think.